We negotiated the joint declaration of the basic law for a long time, very carefully, and we hope it will be generally and broadly upheld. There have been one or two things which worry us, but in the main, I think that joint declaration, basic law, will be carried out because it's both in the interests of Hong Kong and in the interests of mainland China to do so and to be seen to be honouring the agreement they signed.
Hong Kong people are to run Hong Kong. That is the promise, and that is the unshakable destiny.
There are the other aspects of democracy which I believe to be important for all nations and for all human beings, and that is human dignity, some basic rights and freedoms, the right to participate in the governance, to improve the quality of governance, to have some say in issues that affect their everyday life, to have the rule of law, not the rule of men, not ruled by law, and to have an independent judiciary that is not subject to the dictates of the one-party system rule.
The rights which people of Hong Kong have come to know as their own and as their rights might be constrained. We clearly must have freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of association. These are fundamental freedoms, freedom of religious worship. These are fundamental freedoms.
The phrase "one country, two systems" is one which which officials in Beijing have parroted a great deal, repeated over and over again. But I sometimes wonder whether they've actually thought through what it means. I think what's slightly disturbing is the further we've got away from 1997. The more there have been signs of Beijing turning its back on the joint declaration and starting to apply a bit of pressure to Hong Kong's windpipe. The Chinese are almost in denial about the joint declaration being a treaty with another country.
Unfortunately, the rest of the world, particularly Great Britain, would rather pretend not to see what is going on. And I'm afraid that if they continue to ignore the steady erosion, then by the time they wake up to the fact that one country, two systems exist only in name, it will be too late.
What's happened to our sense of honour and our sense of responsibility, particularly in Britain? It's above all a British question. We signed the joint declaration with China. It's a treaty at the UN. It's supposed to commit us to standing up for Hong Kong's rights until 2047. You don't get much sense of British governments actually standing over those promises and obligations, and I think that's a great pity. And it's all for derisory, ludicrous reasons.
And indeed, if every one of our young people is perfectly happy with the status quo, with Beijing's influence, interference, and so on, then Hong Kong will have no future. I have not been happy with it all these years. Because if they want Hong Kong to be masters of our own house, under one country, two systems, Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong with a high degree of autonomy, we must be able to elect our leaders, our chief executive, and all members of the legislature, so that whenever there is any conflict situation between we and the mainland, our leaders must stand on our side.
Is not that this community's autonomy would be usurped by Peking, but that it could be given away bit by bit by some people in Hong Kong.
The real guardian of people's way of life is the way people behave themselves.
If your sons or daughters are not protesting, you better do something about that.
There was no democracy, true democracy in Hong Kong after the movement. So more or less the goal of the movement failed. Maybe we lost a battle, but
Hong Kong people should continue to believe in Hong Kong. That doesn't mean that Democrats should stop pressing for more democracy. That's entirely understandable. It doesn't mean that people can forget about the importance of standing up for their civil liberties. That's crucial. It doesn't mean that people shouldn't be concerned about maintaining the rule of law. What I find impressive
is that, in a way, the more that pressure is being put on Hong Kong, the more people in Hong Kong have asserted, in a patriotic way, their sense of Hong Kong Chinese citizenship.